Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to Hobby Hi-Fi. Sorry I haven't created a whole lot of content lately. Um, I noticed I have quite a few new subscribers. I think I'm up to 50 something now. And so here's to you, new subscribers. I want to keep putting some content out there, even if it's something that just is sort of off the top of my head and what's currently on the top of the stack today. And in this case, what we have here is an integrated amplifier by NAD. NAD has been one of my long-standing favorites for what I'd like to call audiophile sound. I was introduced to it back in the 80s when the original 30 was it the 3020? I'm trying to think. I think it was the 3020 came out. And very low powered, 20 watt amp, but the thing just had a sound to it. And it was very fluid and very, very mellow and very nice and pleasing and musical. And won a lot of accolades for being one of the best budget amplifiers of all time. And so this particular model is a takeoff decades later. The whole 300 series, this one happens to be the C326BEE. And so that whole 20 series, so to speak, has been sort of carried on in the NAD line since the first 30 series came out back in, I think it must have been the 70s. And they've done a pretty good job updating all the different, contemporary needs, and they've made some changes. The one thing that has stayed the same is the sort of black military, utilitarian, industrial type of look. And I've always been sort of a fan of the way it looks. It's clean, it's relatively uncluttered, and it just sort of seems to be very practical laid out. Now, there has been some talk about NAD having some quality control issues in the past, and on certain models I think you can say that you can sort of trace certain amplifiers that have been problematic at certain points, and one of which is the NAD 2200, which is another favorite of mine. I believe it was a 100 watt per channel amp, but NAD was known for making high headroom designs, and I believe that one was also a high headroom design. So for a 100 watt amp, I got to say I never heard anything with such dynamics in my life, and so that particular amp, although I loved it, was one of those that seemed to have an issue with either the caps drying out over 20 or 30 years, which is to be expected. A lot of people sort of expect now to have to change these caps every 10 or 20 years, but I just love it when I find a 40-year-old amp and it still sounds fantastic. That means that they either used better parts, or maybe I'm just lucky, but I'd rather not have to fiddle with caps if not necessary. But this one here, I got to say, is a bit of an updated design. I think it came out maybe 2010 or so. So it's already over 10 years old, I think. But this one I got lucky. It was somebody had said that there was something wrong with it. I hooked it up, plugged it in, nothing wrong with it. So I really got lucky on this piece. It's in quite good condition. As you can tell, the only thing that you can see is on the front face. These are plastic faces, so there's definitely not a high grade type of material and craftsmanship used, but enough to get the job done as long as you're not rough with it. You can see there's a couple of scrapes there on the front that look a little bit more black than others that maybe was just a scrape of some sort, but relatively rugged and well built, and Uh, yeah, I think everything is really quite nice with this amp. I'm pleased with it. The sound is lively. Although I got to say the sound is not quite as ballsy as what I had expected. And granted, I'm using some 4 ohm speakers, and it is only a 50 watt per channel amp. But I guess I guess it's not really, in my opinion, considered a high current amp. I may face some resistance on that, but it's also not a huge headroom amp. And so I believe the indicator for that is when you look at the specs on it, and it will say 50 watts into both 4 and 8 ohms. Now, typically, if an amplifier has a large, power reserve, you're going to pump out, at least 30% more power into a 4 ohm load than you are an 8. So I think that there's been some automatic throttling going on when it comes to low impedance resistances. So, this is maybe a step back in my opinion. They still call it, what do they call it? Dynamic power on demand or something like that, or PD, power demand. There's some gimmick that, although I don't see it stamped on the front, I think it still is one of those types of designs. But anyway, nice to have a current amplifier. I deal with a lot of vintage models, and so I'm really happy with the features and the sound that this provides. And it's always nice to know that I'm working with a unit that is probably operating still at spec. I haven't tested the output voltage on the back, but I think, as I recall, it was pretty nuts on. A couple other things that I really like about this unit: tone to feet. And this is something that a lot of people would prefer to use the tone controls, but I'm one of those purists that seems to like to have nothing stand in the way of the way the recording was meant to be. And if there's any, issues with the sound, I always attribute that to the speakers, the recording, or other factors. I kind of like to have no additional tone controls, and the ability to pull that tone circuit completely out of the circuit. So a bevy of inputs here, all gold plated RCAs on the back, and a handy little media player input if you wanted to plug in a phone or a iPod or whatnot. That's a nice touch. And let's see, the other couple of things on the back, let's see if I can show you that are really appealing to me. One, you can add your own power cord. Always nice to have a replaceable IEC power cord on the back that allows you the ability, if you want, to use a high grade power cord. And been a lot of talk about that through the years, and a lot of people will actually get serious enough to put a dedicated 20 amp circuit in just for their stereo equipment. This particular model has only one set of speaker outputs, which is no big deal to me. I rarely use that switching capability, but one thing I do like is the ability for these nice heavy duty banana plug capable terminals, speaker terminals. And the banana plug is just such an outstanding invention. You can just plug these in with one hand, which is really helpful if you're doing a lot of changes like I do. So it's always nice to be able to have, in my opinion, the ability to not have to fiddle with turning these terminal caps, screwing them in on, bare wire and whatnot. Real pain in the butt sometimes, especially in tight spaces. The other notable couple of things about this is that it does have a main in and a pre-out, and you can see I've added some third-party jumpers. Typically, those are just a sort of a nickel alloy pin that will jump that preamp out to the main in connection. But I've tried to
upgrade some of those jumpers and see if I can tell the difference. And so I think there may be a slight difference there. A couple of other things that's quite nice about this is that it's got a sub out. And so for those of us using subwoofers, a really handy thing to have. A lot of times your audio video receivers are really one of the only things to incorporate subwoofer outputs these days. So to find that on a regular 2-channel amp was sort of icing on the cake. I do have a sub that I've had for quite a while. I don't often use it, but if I feel the need to switch over to my subsat systems, which I always like to do every once in a while because that allows me to use a bevy of different smaller speakers, which in my opinion typically seem to image better. There's less of a front face for that sound to sort of get stuck on. It just sort of fills the room a little better, and I really like the ability to get some little speakers high up on stands and get some sparkles out of some of these cool little speakers that may be just a two-way. That's about it. I'm going to say that this is a well laid out amp, a nice piece, nothing to complain about. And I'm going to say it would be highly recommended if you can pick one of these up. Probably going to pay in the range of $300 to $350 for one of these currently. And so good luck to you if you happen to have a chance to find one of these models here, the 326. I would say do not hesitate. I'm quite happy with the sounds that it produces, and lucky to have it. Thank you for watching. I enjoy my new subscribers, and thank you for being here in the middle of another winter here in Maine. Thank you for watching on this bright but cold Sunday in Maine. Thanks again. Have a great day.